How do you determine a vector or a direction even on euro dollar right now? I mean, what tools do you use to try to gauge the path of an ever weaker euro?
Well, you're absolutely right. It is a very challenging task in terms of the determination of the euro. I think what we would say is that we had seen that excessive run higher in terms of euro. We saw that reflected in terms of significant long positioning, particularly in terms of real money extending longs to record highs. And now we're seeing a realization that, in fact, that was a false move. And we're now seeing a more realistic valuation in euro. But I think it is a case that we're probably getting towards the lower end of this sort of correction phase, but we will watch for additional language and additional rhetoric from the ECB. And of course, we will watch Christine Lagarde or listen to Christine Lagarde quite closely today, because I think there is this realization that from an ECB perspective, they will be much happier with a euro which is mid-teens rather than necessarily upper teens. And in a sense, that's kind of where we are. But from the euro's perspective, the real economy data is deteriorating, or at least softening, because, of course, unfortunately, the case of the number of COVID cases here in Europe are moving up quite exponentially. So
are you linking foreign exchange caution or speculation on the virus?
Well, not directly to the virus, but in terms of what it does for the macroeconomic outcome. So in a sense, we've seen, obviously, the ECB, alongside many other central banks, prove to revise their 2020 growth forecast from a very, very pessimistic set of readings back in the middle of the summer or into the early autumn. But as we move into Q4, it does look as though the growth trajectories for that final quarter of the year look to be a little bit slower than perhaps the central banks would have hoped. And that, of course, adds to the pressure on those central banks to look at additional stimulus measures. So I think that's where the dynamics of the path and the passage of the virus play out in terms of how it has a change in the narrative of the macroeconomic profiles for Q4 and into 2021 as a whole.